Hello and welcome to Pods Like Us. I'm Martin Quibell, known to my friends as Marv, and this time I am speaking with Christian, Harvey, and Angus, who's got two middle names from Shouting is Funny, who do the fantastic, hilarious, and I've said Muppets and Monty Python inspired Chronicles of Wild Hollow. Hey guys, thanks for being here.
Lovely to be here.
Hello,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And how good is it to be able to talk to people that are in the same country and we don't have to mess about with trying to work out what time it is where they are?
Being UK based, I was delighted.
Yeah, fantastic.
Well, we're the home of the best music and the best TV.
Where are you?
There's
Best music,
a lot of
best
good
TV?
stuff.
Best
Where am I based? I'm based near Nottingham.
podcasts.
Nottingham.
Lovely.
Lovely. I love Nottingham. It's
I
great.
can see this signal going really well.
Don't worry.
It's all right. It'll be fine.
It just
will.
adds a little sprinkle of suspense.
Bit of tension.
Into pause,
pause.
written into the script.
Zoom connection brought to you by robotics.
Never fails.
No.
Prepare for the singularity.
Indeed, yes. Yep, I'm going to that parallel universe. So first up then, you're all trained from drama school then, all three of you?
Yeah, we met at Rosebery College, just south of London, and growing up through that 3-year degree, we sort of, we honed our skills as actors and musicians, and yeah, it's aided us massively in this endeavour.
Yep. Let's knock the cameras off and see if that gives us a better sound. Okay?
Sure thing.
Nice.
Is my sound okay?
Mm-hmm.
You sound gorgeous, mate. Gorgeous.
Stop it, Christian.
Sorry. I get confident when the camera's off.
Very
Now
good.
it is like listening to the podcast.
Good. I might
Yeah, it's just
close
a live
my
app.
eyes as well, just to really get in the mood.
Yeah, could you?
Should we all assume
Yeah.
our character voices?
Run a
shall we?
bath, maybe? As well. No, that's too far.
I don't know if you want me to do that.
Oh, there he is. You're going to need extra bottles of water now you're doing that place.
Yeah, honestly, I'm going to top up my glass.
That's great. So how, actually, you've taken me on a tangent here. So
Uh-huh.
how do you actually come up with the different voices for each character?
I think when we started, it came from doing sort of loose read-throughs just like this over Zoom of the scripts that we'd written. And we'd kind of just like give things a go. And the main thing that we were looking for was just trying to make the other two people on the Zoom call laugh as much as possible
Yeah.
while we were reading the scripts. And then we'd sort of iron it out, and then we'd have some conversations. Like some characters have been through quite a few iterations, but I think there was something about the way that Fandango was written where it was almost like it couldn't be any other voice for that character. It's so sort of archetypal, as a protagonist, that it needed something that was kind of recognizable for that sort of character.
Yeah, there's a sort of badassness about him.
I like to think so.
I like to think of Clint Eastwood,
Yes.
but I know other people.
Yeah, I was just about to say Fandango is a mix of the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the Dark Knight, that kind of thing. I think it's really funny because when we first ever started doing anything to do with audio dramas, we'd do these improvised, extremely silly in one of our dorm rooms at drama school, and the voices then would be one of us screaming into the microphone or just doing like a general silly voice. And I feel like we've come on quite a journey, because even though we're still doing some silly voices in our show today, it feels like there's a reason for them to be silly, and they actually require a little bit of work, and not justification, but it's just good to like root the voice of the character in a reason.
Definitely. And we have so many great actors that come and voice these characters as well. So, finding the voice for them is like any actor working on any role, really. It just does have that additional level of silliness.
So when you do the voices, are you actually acting out the scene physically at the same time? A bit like, that where have you seen the footage of Hugh Jackman when he was doing the sound effects for the running sequence in that film? And oh my God, he really went for it.
Oh, in Logan, yeah. Yeah, we do a little bit of that, especially. I mean, speaking about me particularly here, if there's a voice that I can't crack or there's a line that I can't crack, as we progressively do retakes for that single line, I feel like my physicality will get more and more characterful or violent. Maybe as I'm like, expressing my frustration not be able to get this line, I'll start doing like massive movements to try and get into character and stuff.
I think the weirder the characters are, the more movement is required in the recording as well. They kind of get weirder and weirder. To watch it is a wonderful thing. I think Harvey has a lot of fun just sort of bouncing up and down in the booth.
I can't stand still really when I'm doing mine, and I've got more and more busy with how I move through the process of this series actually. But I feel that it like opens up the performance for me. I think when we first started, some of the stuff I was doing, obviously not the takes that necessarily made it in, but I was a little bit timid maybe behind the mic, because although we'd had a lot of practice in our own time at uni just for fun, like we were taking it seriously now, and maybe that sort of put the brakes on me a bit. So I think using the physicality to really get into the character, I found so helpful.
Well, I guess that if you've had professional formal training in drama, then you would also possibly have training in music and singing, perhaps. So therefore, if you're practicing your voice for singing as well, then does that come into the voice for voice acting as well, where you will use those techniques the same?
Oh, definitely. I mean, at drama school, you're almost given a toolkit of different techniques to use to pick and choose depending on the character you're playing. So if you're approaching a character with a certain voice or something, you will assess, the tone of your voice, the pitch, the timbre, the rhythm that you use.
And I do think, like, especially when it's audio only, there's a huge amount of potentially even more weight is put on the voice that you choose. So knowing we're doing animals, you either go with the animal visually, like if you're playing this big bulking kind of animal, then you go for gruff or whatever. Or apparently if you're playing a tiny mouse, you go for gruff as well. But yeah, you use all of those characteristics that you can take from that. And then the more that you can put into the voice as well, the more helpful it tends to be for the listener as well to help visualize it all.
I found when we were, because we, as you were saying, we'd studied all sorts when we were doing our degrees, and singing was one of them. And there's technique in singing to try and, if you're doing belting or trying to hit really big notes, which is called bracing. So it's essentially sort of like hitting a power pose with your body, and almost like sinking into your knees, like you're ready to receive a punch or something. And it looks quite ridiculous a lot of the time, but you need to do that to sort of squeeze the note out and get it right. And I feel like that's definitely a technique we've taken straight from, a singing class, and that's found its way into our recording process for all sorts of moments of character dialogue and stuff. I kind of think of it, it's a bit like, when you've got a roll of toothpaste and you're right at the end and you've got to like any which way you can squeeze that toothpaste to try and get the last bit out, whether you're going to twist it, you're going to roll it, you're going to squeeze it into I don't know, like you could do anything, but as long as you get the bit of toothpaste out, it doesn't matter. So it's almost like you do that with your body when you're trying to hit a certain character voice, whatever it takes to get the right sound, you end up trying it.
The classic toothpaste approach.
I'll write that one down for next time.
I think you should.
It's a bit like Freddie Mercury. If you see Freddie Mercury in footage of him live on stage, you'll see that when he goes for those bad notes, he'll extend his body out so that his diaphragm is extended more, and he can get that bigger note that he wouldn't be able to get if he was all crunched up or normally standing. And that's why you'd get the classic Freddie Mercury pose.
Definitely. I think a lot of people look at, images and that footage of him and think, oh, it's all showmanship and, it's part of the performance, but it's a technical thing. It's a choice to try and to do those things to get the right note. And it's definitely something that I've found creeping into when I'm in the booth doing voicing an anteater in distress or something. That really helps.
Now, on all your official accounts, you need pictures of Harvey doing the Freddie Mercury pose.
Yes, well, we'll have to get one.
Yes. Yep.
Well, that'd be nice.
That's
do a
it.
photo
I
shoot.
mean, I can just see Christian in a booth now with a mouse head on just looking just like Dead Mouse, maybe.
Yes, yeah. I think that's the natural next step.
His approach to physicality when doing Fandango is fantastic. Actually, he gets the microphone an inch from the floor and lies down and he eats a bit of cheese whilst he's doing it. It's amazing to see him delve into that.
I
character
wish
so
that
much.
was true. Now I think for the next series, that's going to be how we have to record Fandango.
Tell me we're going to see the return of Fandango at some point.
Hey,
Yeah,
I think it's
we're
coming.
very.
I think it's coming.
Yeah, we can't be secretive about that because we're too excited, to be honest. So yeah, he'll definitely be back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he is broken, beaten, and scarred, but he is back. Yeah.
It'd be strange because you're doing these shorter stories each month as well. An interesting one might be if Fandango's just in the background talking and you can hear him in the background talking somewhere else and the main story's going on in front of that.
That's a solid idea, Marv. I really like that.
I love that. I mean, that's
Interesting. Great idea.
making note of that.
That's fantastic. So he's not. So only our most dedicated listeners who are like combing through every single second of every single podcast will ever like sort of find it. That's so cool.
Yep. And you could do it with any of the characters, couldn't you? Because they're all in the same world. They're all in Wild Hollow. They could always, come across each other. Like you could even have like one of the other characters, like Artemis, could be there, and she could just somebody who's the main protagonist of the story that you're telling could just come across her and ask her about something like, "Oh, do you know the way to such and such, or this, that, and the other?" And she'll answer. And then that's her done for that one little bit.
That is a great idea.
I think that's what we're enjoying with the Wild Hollow shorts at the moment is the opportunities to throw in a character here and there, like you'll recognize them or you'll glimpse them from elsewhere, but then it's not like this massive impact on the story or anything like that. It's just opportunities to add a little bit more color, a bit more flavor to everything that we've already got going. So yeah, I really love that.
Yeah, that's one of the great things about the Wild Hollow shorts as well, because with our trilogies, we are bound to this massive storyline that we're building episode by episode, and each trilogy of course has their own storyline within them, but with the short ones, you can kind of go a bit off piste, and and something random can happen. A mollusk could go to a Britain's Got Talent style talent show and stuff. It's just so much fun to write something that's it's
a good idea.
You know what? But yeah, it's very freeing, isn't it?
It's nice. I think also, we've done 2 trilogies so far, which are part of an ongoing sort of epic, which has taken a lot of planning and a lot of knowing that the decisions we make now is going to affect the writing of the next trilogy, and lots of threads have to be tied together, and a lot of consideration goes into every step. So it's quite nice at this point. We're 2 trilogies down, going to have continue that story soon, but to sort of have this little pit stop in the middle where we can sort of just refresh our imaginations and our energies and create something that doesn't have that long running impact, and just make some creative choices and run with it. I think I'm finding that really freeing from a writer's perspective.
So going back a bit, being in drama school and getting your degrees and that, how did it go from there to you actually starting Shouting is Funny?
But like Angus said, we messed around quite a lot with sort of improvised audio stuff when we were at school together, and it was animal based for one reason or another, and I think now we're kind of just hooked on it. So we always kind of knew that we wanted to do more of it, but we didn't know in what capacity it would be. And then along came our good friend COVID, and we all graduated in summer of 2020. So we graduated into the creative industry on its knees. So we were all in lockdown, and we were all creatively completely bereft and just needed something to do more than anything. And luckily, the three of us had this thing that we all sort of linked us all together and was manageable in one way, shape, or form. You could do it remotely, so everyone could stay safe and stay apart, but still create something. And I think it really it fast tracked the company. I like to think that the company would have happened regardless, but yeah, it was absolutely it was born from lockdown for sure.
So have each of you got specific roles that you are have more strength than others? Do you each pick a particular role, or do you swap and change accordingly? Do you just do whatever comes naturally?
Well, so Christian is our almost HQ for the company. He's the editor, the sound designer, the lead songwriter, as well as writer and voice actor. So he takes a great chunk of the work, and of course he's very, very talented at it. So Christian's strengths are
more.
Go on.
Boundless.
What's the word I'm looking for? Christian.
keep
Christian.
it coming.
and he's just so good looking as well. He's got that beautiful face, and
we're recording all this, right?
Oh yeah, yes, of course we are. But yeah, so like Christian takes on the mixing, editing, music writing alongside acting and writing as well. And Harvey does all the artwork, which is fantastic, and he also writes songs. And I, well, what do I do, guys? Can we remember what I do? What do I do in this thing again?
You bring the spark, man. No, we write everything together, and I think the style, the quality control, that comes from it being a shared job between the three of us. And we've had moments where we've, had maybe two of us working on a script because the other one's busy, actually doing an acting job or something like that. And we've got sort of the script is kind of drafted up, and we'll be reading it through and we'll be like, oh, this needs a bit of Angus in there, or, oh, we're missing the Christian in this because they haven't been present. So yeah, we all write these scripts together. And actually, coming to Wild Hollow shorts that we've been working on recently and are releasing at the moment, we've been able to sort of go a bit more independent on some of those scripts because they're shorter. So each of us have sort of taken the lead on certain stories, and then we've come together and edited together. But I think definitely at the beginning of putting everything together, during 2020, during that COVID period where we were all locked down, it was very much, we're all going to do everything. And then over time, I think we've found our niches that we enjoy the most and that we're strongest at. And we're sort of running in those lanes, but we share most of the work.
We do. And the great thing about working in a trio is that, we'll come up with these ideas for these stories. We'll mark out the beats for each scenes, and then we'll delegate. We'll send Christian off with these 3 scenes, Harvey off with these 3 scenes, me off with these 3 scenes, and we'll come back a couple of weeks later, and then all of a sudden you're not just a writer working on your own again. You're a trio of writers. So there's basically 3 editors to trawl through the script and take this line out or add this line in, and it's just such a fantastic process when you've got collaborators there, because when you write something you think might not be up to par, or not up to par, but that you're struggling on, you've got 2 other great minds. No. We've got 2 other minds. Sorry, that was extremely vain to call us all vain. To call us all great like that. We have 3 great minds working on one piece. So it's a great process. You're collaborating, you're editing together, so you never feel out in the dark or on your own. It's great.
It's like a hive mind then. So you'll come up with whatever, and then together you'll come together and act like one big mind joined together then to come up with the finished products.
Yes, exactly that. Exactly that.
That's right. Yeah.
You are the Borg.
Yeah. Your references are on point this evening, Marv.
Thank you very much. And my next reference is to apologise to Harvey for my really bad interpretation of his artwork.
Oh no,
Oh.
it's wonderful. It's a lovely interpretation.
I try. But then people have mentioned, they've said that, they've said, we don't expect perfection from your artwork, Marv. That's what makes it me, technically.
I mean, that in itself is art, Marv, if you think about it. It's about your journey, your process,
Oh, lovely. Who made your Pods Like Us cover, the little peas?
The peas, they were designed by my other half, Louise, designed it.
Oh.
And then a podcasting friend named Gil, who does the Mind Buzz, he said to me, oh, my friend has taken that artwork that Louise designed and he's made it up for me, which is what it is now. And they gave it me for free.
That's lovely.
No way.
And his name's Alex.
Shout out to Alex. Yeah.
Thank you, Alex.
Shout out to Alex. It's brilliant. I love it.
It's peas in a pod on a which is like a microphone stand.
It's excellent.
And they're wearing headphones.
Oh, that's what it. Oh, wow.
Yeah, he should really have made the headphones grey, because then you would have noticed them.
I saw them straight away. I don't know what Angus has been looking at. I think it's very clear.
It looks fantastic. Yeah,
Come on, Alex.
It looks great. It's
not
it's a great little
dissimilar
logo. It's
in
great.
style and humour to sort of a lot of our visual aids and our logo as well, actually. Which I think, we enjoy that.
Yeah, bottom P is giving me a lot of shouting is funny vibes.
Look at that.
Yeah, didn't think of that. So does Harvey actually do artwork for the different characters as well, so you can get a gist of what the characters look like to then base your characterization on them?
Yeah. So there's a lot of it. I mean, it's all on our website, www.shoutingisfunny.com. And it's plastered all over our sort of social media accounts. We find having the artwork is just a great way of promoting the show, to be honest. Going into depth on stuff, just sharing more about the world. I think because we've come from, I guess training in like theatre and screen and being used to having visual aids as part of the work that we make, that I think we really felt that we wanted to have that in some way, even though we know that audio drama is obviously audio. So leaning into the art, I think, has been a really nice way for us to sort of just spread our wings a bit when it comes to being creative, especially with things like character design and the world, being a fantasy world. Having those visuals is so helpful, I think.
Harvey does ridiculous amounts of artwork. It's incredible.
It's amazing.
But I'm going to jump ahead now. So that though then helps with the fantastic sound design that you've got. So the sound effects that you've got, like when they're on the ship, you can hear the water. And it reminds me of, I'm going to do a thing about Star Trek here as well. So when I used to watch Star Trek Deep Space Nine, I could hear you can hear the hum of the actual of the actual space station that was going on in the background, if you had your sound on loud enough, of course. But it's that attention to detail where you've got those little bits of sound and then the seagulls, but it's the sound and it's perfectly done. So that's like an audio representation of what you're painting or what you're drawing or your artwork.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the goal, because we've created this, massive, like, imagined world. So when we transcribe it to audio, we want to create something that's immersive and people can really feel as if they're like, inside. When you put your headphones on, you close your eyes, and then you're suddenly there on the deck of a ship, and there are people in the background or animals in the background working away, the waves, the seagulls, as you said. But I think that sort of, takes it to the next level. I can't even imagine what it would be like with no sound effects.
I can. It's weird.
I do think there's an interesting thing when it comes to audio drama or audio books, especially. There's people have very strong opinions on whether there should or shouldn't be additional sound, other than the voices of the voice actors and narrators and things. And obviously, those things, there are clear distinctions between them as art forms, but I think it only enhances, as you said, the work that we're trying to make. The more detail you can get, the more fully realized that world is for the listener. And that's definitely the way that we enjoy it. And yeah.
That's what we strive for, I think, isn't it? With everything, is
Yes,
the
definitely.
more detail, the better.
It brings to mind the old, radio plays from back in the day when you'd have really good sound effects, and I mean, let's face it, the BBC had incredible people doing Foley work, and that, I mean, incredible. Yeah. But it harkens back to that sort of thing where you've got that, attention to the detail of the sounds, of the voices, of the great voice actors that they had, and the full-on stories that they told, where you would be immersed in that and you can imagine it. So when I listen to your shows, to your audio dramas, I am actually there. I mean, I don't need to close my eyes. When I heard the Scumwater song, for instance, I could almost see all the characters in that bar actually singing, and it's amazing in the amount of, and it sounds like an old, when they're singing on the ship as well, you can hear all of those characters there perfectly in their singing together, and it's amazing, and the sound as well that goes with it.
Oh, well, thank you very much for saying that, Marv. That makes us very happy.
That's what we aim for. And it's odd when you break down the individual voices in a crowd singing, and it's about 90% of it is one of us three just doing a different stupid voice,
throwing in a falsetto on top.
I'm glad that, literally just whacking it up 2 octaves. So I'm glad it is actually working and not just sound like three young men going slightly insane.
That's all bubbling under the surface, really, isn't it?
Well, let's face it, if you all had solo careers as singers, you wouldn't need any backing vocalists, because you'd just do your own backing vocals sounding like somebody else.
Yeah.
Plenty of
Who needs Luther Vandross on the baritone these days? Just do it yourself.
Good shout out. He used to be one of the backing singers for Chic back in the day.
Shout out to Luther Vandross.
Bowie as well, actually, on Young Americans. Yep. He did a lot of the backing on that.
He did. So you said that not one of you, but two or three of you actually write the songs then, do you?
Yeah, so song-wise, at least for the time being, I write the majority of the songs. And they start out as little just piano demos, and then I orchestrate over the top of them, usually once we've got the vocals laid down, actually. And it all sort of grows around that. But Harvey does contribute some of the songs as well. He put a couple in for the Borsan trilogy, and then wrote Mutiny in the Grey trilogy, which I think is one of the best songs in the trilogy. It's cracking. And then lyrically, quite a lot of the time, the lyrics they come from all of us at different stages. Because we write it all together, usually we break down the episodes and we work out what is going to be a song, where the songs are going to slot in. And usually, if you scroll down to the bottom of the Google Doc, one of us will have been noodling away with some lyric ideas, and there's just a load of rubbish down at the bottom. And from that rubbish, something emerges. So, yeah, it's hard to pinpoint exactly who's written what sometimes.
If it's really clever wordplay, it's usually Christian, because it's very good at that.
He's the Costello or the Bob Dylan of the group then for lyrics.
That's right.
Get that on a t-shirt, Christian.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll be popping that on the social media tomorrow, I think.
Shout out to Bob Dylan.
Shout out to Bob Dylan.
Yep. All these shout outs.
I can't wait for the little sound bites at the end.
Oh, I've given myself a job here, haven't I?
You have.
So
all right,
is that how you do the music then? Is it just you do it on like a keyboard and then add all the other instruments through a keyboard, or have you actually got other people playing other instruments, like real drummers playing drums and then guitarists playing guitar and that sort of thing?
So if you hear guitar, chances are it's Mr. Harvey Badger.
Yep.
Pretty much everything else is MIDI instruments. Yeah. So yeah, through keyboard and just through different instrument samples. All the orchestra, drums, yeah, it's insane what you can do with just music technology these days. It's glorious, because like the stuff that we want to create is this big epic fantasy drama soundscape stuff, and that's just vastly expensive if you want to actually get in all these instruments or pay for the talent and the time. No chance we'd be able to do that. But yeah, by doing it all through MIDI instruments, it's unlocked this whole world for us, which is kind of quintessential to the show now, I think.
Also, don't know anyone with a timpani drum, so
Yeah, that's true.
just go digital with that. It's quite a heavily used one of ours, I think.
Digital Timp. That's a good name for something.
It is. But the music that you make for it, though, it's really intricate. I mean, you've got counterpoint in there as well, and then you've got counter harmony in there as well, or counter melody in there as well at times, and it's just there's so much in those songs. I mean, it must take you a crazy amount of time to actually arrange that and put it all together.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It is a hugely time-consuming thing, and like when we first made our first episodes, we planned out, right, we're going to do this trilogy, then this trilogy, then this trilogy. We're going to smash it all out in like a year, and it's going to be amazing. And then we did the first trilogy, and it got to the music stage, because I get all the recordings together, and then I do the sound design on top of that, so the sound effects and things. And music is the last thing to happen, because I need everything else spaced out as it's going to be in the episode, and then I can work the timings and the rise and the fall of the music and stuff around the shape that we've put together. And yeah, I got to that stage with the first trilogy, and I was just like, oh my god, this is going to take forever. And that's suddenly how we're only releasing one trilogy per year or whatever, because yeah, the music takes a long time, and I try to be clever with it all the time, and I shoot myself in the foot far more than I should, because I don't know how much of it's actually picked up on. But I like to know that Freya Grey's theme tune is played for 2 seconds when she's mentioned by a different character in a different scene or whatever. It brings me joy. So yeah, it's full of little bits and bobs like that.
But I think that's what elevates it so much. Angus and I are constantly impressed and just in awe really of some of the orchestration when Christian finally plays us through the episodes before we release, just because it's so detailed and clever, with these little counter melodies and motifs from other characters woven in, and I think whether you actively notice those things or not, you get the atmosphere of it, and you can hear the detail. Whether you're picking out what it is, it's present. And I think that's one of the strengths of the show is its music. And yeah, one of my favorite things in all our projects is when we get to do that final listen through and everything's got music for the first time.
So
that's
satisfying.
It transports you when you're listening.
Shout out to the soundtrack releasing on Friday the 7th of October.
Yeah, the Grey Trilogy soundtrack, all the music from the whole trilogy is going to be released next.
How many tracks is that? How many tracks is that, Christian?
That is 44 tracks of music, Angus.
Oh, I'm waiting for the 3-disc CD edition to come out.
Oh, the day that I can do a 6 LP vinyl press, I'll be in heaven.
Oh, and all the artwork that you'd have in that,
you'd have a
black
booklet
cover as well.
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
It'd be a thing of beauty. One day.
All Harvey's great artwork all throughout the whole thing, even on the sleeves.
Oh, it'd be grand. I'd love that. Well, I mean, and if people like the artwork, they can now buy the artwork because we do have a limited run of prints available.
Very good, Harvey. Very good indeed.
Is that a good segue?
Shout out to limited edition art prints at shoutingisfunny.com.
That's true.
This has just become one big plug, hasn't it?
Yeah.
No, it's an in-depth conversation that I'm really enjoying, actually, Christian.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah.
Staying on the subject of the songs, is it difficult to actually write the songs for the episodes because of the fact that essentially you've almost stuck yourself in a corner because you've got to write the song to go with this specific scene and tell this specific story, or isn't it like that at all? Does it actually make it easier to write because you've got that set structure to fit it into?
I mean, it's a little bit of both, because sometimes I had some of the songs for the Grey trilogy written and like the demos recorded about 7 or 8 months before we even started recording the actors. Like some of the songs were like the first things that came out, because I was like, oh, there's definitely going to be a song in a giant whale with a crowd singing about whatever. So I wrote that, and then the scene was shaped around the song. But then other times, I think with our writing, we do bullet points first, and then we expand on the bullet points, and then we thread all of that into actual scenes. So usually a song is a bullet point, a beat in the story. So we just know that we write in script form the bullet point before and the bullet point after. And then when we get to the actual script, there's a big old hole of plot. And then we know that that's what the song is going to be. So usually the song is like a bit of grout filling in a bit of a hole in a bathroom wall.
And another fantastic analogy just dropped in there.
We're sticking to the bathroom related metaphors.
I think when it comes to songwriting with a really clear objective for what that song needs to be, I think that can make the job easier. Before doing this, a lot of my sort of songwriting experience was less sort of theatre based or story based. It was more like writing for bands or just sort of folk music and things. And as a songwriter there, you are kind of just relying on that little moment, that bit of inspiration, where a tune's popped into my head, or something that's just coming out while I'm playing the guitar, and I have to write it down. Whereas I think with these, because you have these bullet points, as Christian said, of what you need to say, what needs to happen, who's there, you've got all the context, and that, for me at least, can make the process of getting that song on its feet a lot easier. We had a great tutor for a short period when we were at Rose Bruford, Grant Olding, who's a composer.
Shout out
to Grant Olding. But a lot of what I took away from the work we did with him was about research that you put in before you even start thinking about what the song's going to sound like. It's working out exactly what it is it's going to be about. And this is for songwriting for theatre and musicals rather than just generally. But having all that research, like you would if you were going to write a play or a film, you'd have pages and pages of research before you sit down and start writing the script. And I think, that's definitely something I've tried to take on when it comes to writing songs that come within a story, like audio drama or musicals.
So going back to the voices again, because I've just noticed that I've missed a bit. So go into more detail of how's the sound? Where do the sounds come from? I mean, do you create them yourself as Foley, or do you find them somewhere and source them?
We have once we've nearly finalized a cut of the project, we'll have a day towards the end of production where all three of us will meet in Christian's booth, and we'll comb through the entire show with us three as the Foley as the Foley of the program.
Foley boys.
The Foley boys. Harvey and I play a pair of background characters that I don't think are credited, but they should be, called the Seal Brothers, and it just consists of me and Harvey making making seal noises, and it's just a day of fun like that. But Christian, I think you do outsource. Is it like sort of
so most of the SFX are found. There's a website called zapsplat.com, which is just one of many sort of royalty-free sound effect databases. And it's like £4 a month or something, and you get access to this vast library. So SFX is mostly from there, but then as Angus says, like vocal, like ambience and cries and crowds and shouts and this, that, and the other. That is usually just the three of us on one day with a pizza and just like rattling through them and going more and more
Deranged.
berserk as the day
Yeah.
goes on.
I hate to bring this back to me with this one, but that reminds me of, so I when I did my last album, which was a few years ago, under my pseudonym of Project Marv. So we got to the end, towards the end of it, and then I thought, well, it needs some percussion in there, because I like the idea of a lot of percussion into sort of like build up. So you've got all the guitars, all the keyboards, and all the other instruments there, and all that. And I just thought, so me and two of the staff from the studio where I used to work, we just started one song, and then we'd go in there and I'd have this studio room all set up with all these percussion instruments, and this microphone would be there, and we'd know exactly where to stand, where the percussion would be picked up the best. And we just used to go in there and we'd play all the percussion as the three of us, have a listen back and think, does it need any more? And whatever else it needed, we just did that. And I think for about 2 days,
Just layer it up.
2 days, we just did that over 2 days, laid up all the percussion for 18 songs.
Oh, that sounds so much fun.
So have we explained about the songs writing and recording? We have. So you've mentioned that you try to make each other laugh when you write. So this is a bit of all of it. So when you write, are the puns worked on, or are the puns there immediately, and you just try to out-pun each other essentially?
Definitely the latter. I'd say. I think if it takes time to work on a pun, it's not usually worth it. I think if it comes out straight away, then it'll make us giggle. There's a lot of puns that go by the wayside because we take ourselves very seriously at Shouting is Funny. But
Indeed.
I think one of the most enjoyable parts of writing is the initial read-throughs when we're reading these scenes for the very first time that we've been working on individually, and seeing what funny names or puns or things can be worked in.
Or if anything needs pulling back, because that editing process is crucial, because some of the things that some of us write are so incredibly insane that there would be no way that they could make it into one of
the upcoming Wild Hollow shorts. We can't reveal who it focuses on or what the title of the episode is, but Angus wrote it, and it is ludicrous in every sense of the word, and the puns are painful.
Off the chart. They're great.
Painful. I think painfully brilliant.
I think it's like pretty much a pun every single sentence of dialogue.
We're pushing the boat out with the puns on this episode. But I think it's worth it because it made me laugh a lot when we were reading it.
Funny.
So that's it. And it's a short. It'll be over in 15 minutes regardless of whether you like it or not.
Just hang in there.
Oh, cheers.
It'll be
guys,
over soon.
No. It's one of my favourite things that we've been working on lately.
Thank you for not giving anything away about that, because even though this episode isn't going out until about 5 weeks after recording, I want to be surprised just as much as everybody else.
Yeah.
Good.
It's so difficult not to talk about though. We've got so many these, especially these little Wild Hollow shorts, these monthly episodes. There's so much I want to talk about. I can't wait for people to hear them.
So the Wild Hollow shorts, then, how long are they going to be lasting for? Are you going to keep them going for a while and then come back to the trilogy?
We've got 6 planned out at the moment. We've just released the Little Mollusk, the Ballad of Little Mollusk. So we've got six planned in total. So it'll take us to January. Is that correct? Or is it February? February,
Ooh.
yeah. So it'll take us to February, just to keep people keep giving the people what they want,
So yeah, that'll be volume 1 of Wild Hollow shorts, and I think there's a lot more characters that we want to check in with, and more sort of appearing all of the time. I think even like Simon Cowell potentially deserves a Wild Hollow short, etc. Who's only just appeared in Ballad of Little Mollusk.
There's an example of a pun that was so
Simon
strong that
Cowell.
the whole character itself was born from just the pun.
Moo.
Yeah.
So silly.
Oh, dear.
I mean, the other great thing about personally, one of my favorite things about the Wild Hollow shorts is that they are just so fun to write, because as I said earlier, you're not bound to like an overarching storyline, and you can just you can get a bit weird with it, a bit silly with it.
The stakes tend to be far lower, don't they? So you can just have fun.
Yeah.
It's a great exercise in structure, though, I found. You know, when you're used to writing something with a solid 3 acts and the beats and all the things you need to cram in, then you suddenly need to minimize that down to 15 minutes, but you still have to hit those markers, especially if you're doing a sort of narrative-based story, like the Mollusk one or some of the others we've got coming up. There are a few that are a bit more off the wall with their structure, but when you're going down something that is a narrative one, you still need to have your beginning, your middle, your end, your character arc, your payoff, your reveal, but you just have so much less time to do it in. And that's something I've really enjoyed, the challenge of that, actually, since we've been working on these shorts.
You see, you say off the wall, but then we are talking about the Chronicles of Wild Hollow, so you're there already.
Our scale is completely off. It's completely skewed off, yeah. In my head, if it's a talking mouse, but it's got a structure that's beginning, middle, end, I'm like, oh, that's very, very stable and normal storytelling. That
I'll say it again. You know, the Muppets meets Monty Python meets the Goons.
Love it. Love it. The more references, the better. I mean, every time people throw new ones at us, it's really nice, because it's just nice to know that people are connecting the work we're making with the work that they love from the past and all these other great comedians and writers, and just having those connections made is a very lovely thing to hear.
And it's really interesting because I don't actively write Wild Hollow thinking that I'm influenced by either of those things, but I grew up absolutely loving the Muppets, loving Monty Python, and to sort of recognize the inspirations in our own work once they're made, I find it really interesting. And people like you, Marv, coming in and sort of making these connections, it's really, really lovely. Yeah, it's really nice.
But I mean, at the same time, with the use of the animals in the main characters, and that you've also it's, dare I say, it's almost got a quintessentially English feel to it, because that's very, C.S. Lewis and that type of writer, and the artwork that Harvey does, especially of the land itself, is incredible. Reminds me of like the artwork of things, to do with Tolkien and things like that. So there's all that in there.
Yeah, definitely. That's such a massive inspiration for us as well. I mean, like, I speak for myself, but I probably speak to others here. I grew up on Lord of the Rings, reading books like Eragon and stuff, and I think since then my love for the sort of fantasy genre has just grown and grown and grown. And to have this
shout out for Eragon.
Yeah, sorry, shout out to J.R.R. Tolkien quickly. I mean, yeah, and like to now be in a position where we can be sort of creating this our own sort of fantastic world. It's just so it's like a dream come true. It's great.
So how do you actually record the show and then edit it together?
Well, we started, as I said, in COVID, so everything was completely remotely recorded. So we put out before the Chronicles of Wild Hollow officially became a thing. Fandango Borsan came first, and we did a Christmas special. We're yet to decide whether the Christmas special is canon, but it remains
it's an origin story.
It remains firmly on our podcast feed for the time being for people to go and check out and enjoy. But it's wacky and it's mental, and it's just the three of us. We didn't have anyone else. We didn't have any other actors on board. It was just a little passion piece, all recorded externally, and then all just sent over the wonderful internet to myself, and I downloaded it all and slotted all the dialogue into place. And by doing that, we've sort of stumbled across the way that we like to work. Because we're poor, we can't afford to go and like get a studio and have multiple mics or whatever. So we're limited by one mic at a time anyway. So we've upgraded things since the Christmas special. I now have a sort of a makeshift sound booth at my place. A foamy room.
Foamy room.
And I bring people into the foamy room one by one. So we do record all of the dialogue individually. since the Christmas special, we've been doing more and more in person. Borsan Trilogy was all recorded in isolation as well. So, but we brought other people on board. So we sort of put out a message: anyone with a decent quality recording microphone and wants to be involved with the show, get in touch. And we had a really lovely group of people get involved. And similarly with the Grey Trilogy, but lockdowns had lifted, thankfully, at that point. So we were actually able, so we brought in Heather. Shout out to Heather Gordy.
Yeah. Shout out to Heather.
Our wonderful Artemis Grey.
Yeah.
We got her in the booth. Alice E. Mayer, Salami, we got her in. And Eleanor Kane, who plays Freya Grey, Artemis's mother. They were three of our cast that we actually got in to record their dialogue live, per se. So yeah, it's still very much record everything separately and then chop them up and slot them in post-production. But being able now to bring people into the space with us, usually I'm there recording, I'm like mixing it as we go, and then I have either both of them or Angus or Harvey in the room as well, so we can like direct it and have another go, come at different angles, and really sort of hone in on exactly how we want the performances to shape out.
So did you know the voice actors before and then that you've got in? Because they're incredible voices.
Boys?
Well, yeah, I mean, the great thing about going to drama school is you're constantly around all these fantastic growing performers. And yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, we're just so grateful that these people who we have come into contact with in the past are keen to you know, be a part of this fantastic world that we're creating. So yeah, we knew, I think we knew most of them, didn't we, guys?
Yeah.
Pretty much everybody, I think, from whether it's, you know, people we knew, all of us from uni, or whether it's contacts that one of us has brought into the company for an episode. Yeah, they're all, I think, actors that we've come across before, whether that's through working with or just through, you know, being our mates, really.
Well, when you make the next show, you could always go to some theatre down London and just, you know, go there with a van and, you know, put a bag over the top of Sir Patrick Stewart's head or Ian McKellen's and say, do this, and then we'll let you go.
And he'll wake up in our foamy room.
David Tennant's on at the moment, isn't he, in the West End?
He is. Oh, that's a good shout. Yeah, we'll go and nab him.
Shout out to David Tennant.
Grab him.
Shout out to David
We're coming
Tennant.
for you.
God, I'll tag him in this episode.
Oh no.
He's got a good sense of humour.
He does.
He
Just
does.
look at Good Omens.
That's great.
Love Good Omens.
Everything he does, I think he's excellent. Yeah. So we'll definitely be writing to his agent for the next one. With a location of where we're keeping him.
I mean, we have tried that before. We've tried to write to a pretty successful actor to come and do, like, I think 10, 12 lines at the end of one of our episodes, and surprisingly we heard nothing back, which is confusing.
Nothing.
But, yeah.
Which means we have to just email them again, right?
Again, yeah.
I think so.
It's a numbers game.
Yeah.
Well,
if at first you don't succeed,
kidnap them.
Have another go.
Kidnap them.
piss people off until they or kidnap them.
Oh dear, it's taking a dark turn, guys.
Or go look around the podcasting world and find these actors who suddenly do their own podcast because they're obviously up for it.
Yes, yeah. And to be fair, we've had some lovely engagement from people that we don't know that have just listened to the show and wanted to get involved. And we have had nice conversations with people and taken people's details, you know, for future casting and stuff. So having people reach out to us has been really nice as well. You know, we still cast based on, you know, how you should cast, what we think, who would sound best for the character. It just happens to be because of our limited budget and stuff getting started, it's all been people we know. But, you know, we're not just in the business of trying to employ mates. We're looking for what the best voice is going to be, the best performance.
You know, I'm going to go back now because I've just suddenly thought of something I should have asked earlier. So the stories that are written, when how far ahead of time are those stories written? So these short stories, these shorter ones, are they already all been written?
They've all been drafted out. a couple of them aren't fully realized yet. I say realized, not like the final version. They're all scripted out and they could be ready to go if we wanted to. But I think there's more work that we can do on some of the later ones because we've given ourselves the 6 months. It just takes the pressure off just a little bit, because when we do the trilogies, everything is absolutely pedal to the metal, and it's intense, and it's like there's one goal and you push. But yeah, with these shorts, it's a nice change of pace. But trilogy wise, when we draft out the scripts, it usually takes us, what would you say, boys, 2 or 3 months maybe to get from nothing to a point where we know exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, and that's evolving as well, because the trilogies, although we said this previously, but like although they have their own stories sort of within those 3 episodes, and even within each episode has its own little story, they are part of a longer narrative, which concerns lots of characters and the world of Wild Hollow itself. So as we're going along, there are sort of almost more bricks being laid by the time we get round to the next trilogy, because of what we've done in the first trilogy. There's already a bit more there than starting from scratch. So, we're looking to start work on trilogy 3 soon. And there's already a lot there, just by the fact that we've done 2 trilogies that we're going to continue those stories forward. But yeah, it's a lot of detail, I think. And it does take time to sort of get those beats of the story together and everything before we even think about, getting scripts done.
You preempted where I was going to go there, because I was going to say, so where are you now with the next trilogy? And will you be using the time now with these shorter trilogies? Will you be working on the recording and the casting for that trilogy while these are being put out and recorded as well? Or will that be done separately?
So I think that's kind of we've given ourselves this 6-month period now, where we can release these shorts at the time scale isn't as pressured as with the trilogies. So I think we're going to take this 6 months to continue developing the 3rd trilogy. We've got like a skeleton, I'd say. We've got an idea of where it's going and how it's going to end. But yeah, this 6 months, it's giving us like a hefty amount of time to flesh it out and just write it. So
I'd say in an ideal world where this was a full-time job and we didn't have to do other jobs to live, we would have got the shorts fully written, recorded, all done before we released the first episode, to be honest. And then that would give us 6 clean open months without having to focus on anything other than trilogy 3. And that was probably the genesis of doing the shorts in the first place, was giving ourselves that time. But as we know, those schedules don't always pan out, and life happens as well. So I think we definitely have one eye on trilogy 3 whilst we're looking at these shorts at the moment.
Well, you're obviously going to have a break between the finish of the end of the shorts anyway, and then when the 3rd trilogy comes out with, so you'll have the time there to do all that. And like you said, because it's giving you the time to be able to work on it a bit longer in a sense, it gives you the chance to hone it as well, and then it'll be perfect for when it comes time to record, and there won't be any. Were there any alterations made once you went to recording and putting those episodes together? Were they set in stone, or was there room for maneuver when you were recording dialogue or something? You might think, oh, that sounds different when it's said that way, when the voice actors actually put it.
Yeah, absolutely. There have definitely been times. Quite often when I'm editing, because we record everything individually, and maybe this is a foible of our approach, but yeah, recording everything individually, when I then go to slot it in, I can get to a scene, and it's happened once or twice. I've reached a point and I'm just like, that makes absolutely no sense. We've missed something crucial here that means that does not nice and cleanly join to that. So there have been a couple of moments where I've messaged jump on the group chat and just be like, guys, we've missed this. And then that's resulted in a couple of little rewrites and a couple of little re-records. But in general, apart from like if someone wants to ad lib a line ever so slightly and like change a word or like embellish upon it, we always encourage our additional voice cast, if they feel something, go for it, because we can always ask them to pack it in and do it properly. But if they want to go off and go mental with it, shout out to Loris Scarpa. He plays
lovely. Yeah.
He plays Pablo the Seagull in the Grey trilogy.
And Jeffrey the Beaver.
And Jeffrey, let's not forget. But what was written down for Pablo versus what Loris sent across to me and I listened to, and I was like, oh my God, this is so much better. Our actors, absolutely, they knock it out of the park every time. We're very, very lucky with the people we've had involved.
We had some really lovely when we were in the booth with Eleanor for Freya Gray's lines. We knew we wanted the character to have a Scottish voice, Scottish accent, linked with Artemis, of course, and Eleanor and Heather are both great Scottish actors. But it was really interesting chatting to her through some of the dialogue, and she'd be like, you've written it this way, but in this part of Glasgow, if we were going to say that, we'd actually say it like this. And it was really nice to sort of make those little changes and tweaks, because it's, someone that has that knowledge and can give more context and more detail to the character. That was a really nice thing to have as well.
So what advice would you give to people who would be thinking of doing an audio drama for themselves or going into this sort of creative process?
Collaborate. Get other people in. As Harvey said, use other people. You're
misquoting me there, sir.
Just kidnap if you need to.
Yeah.
Kidnap Patrick Stewart. Use other people. There we go. Good audio drama right there.
Shout out to Patrick Stewart.
Shout out again to Patrick Stewart.
But it is literally that. The collaboration, I mean, we've been banging on about it in this episode already, but just the freedom and the release of having 3 people on one task, 3 brains, 3 great minds, always ticking over on what we want to happen. It genuinely makes everything so much easier and so much more fun as well.
It
and
takes
that's
the
what we
pressure
do,
off too,
isn't it?
I found. It means that you're not editing yourself all the time, which can, as any writer will tell you, can be quite taxing. When you have to, you're always your own worst critic, and if that's the only critic in the room, then everything gets pretty harsh pretty quick. So having supportive people around you, but that are also, it takes some of the weight off of that, and it allows you to try things that might not work and be, not worried about that. Making mistakes is how you learn, and it's really important. So taking your time as well is another thing I'd say if you're starting and you want to make some audio drama. Like, don't rush. Take your time. You don't have to just put things out. People aren't looking for stuff just because it's there. They want good quality things, and it's okay to take your time with that. But in that as well, you will just get better as you go, because you'll learn things along the way. So don't be overly precious either. So it's a sort of balancing act of, taking your time to get it right and learn, but also, I don't know if perfection or the perfect version of something exists really. I think that's the point of it, is that you'll strive for it and you'll get as close as you can, but I don't think you can ever get it absolutely perfect.
And I'd say nothing has to be permanent either. Like I mentioned, our Christmas special that we did before we actually landed on the Chronicles of Wild Hollow. So then we released the first trilogy, and just in between releasing the Christmas special and releasing the first trilogy, we learned so much, and we really developed as a company, as a writing group, and then myself on the sound design and everything. There was a huge amount that I learned. So we went back and we removed the original upload of the Christmas special, and we just went in and we recorded some new stuff, and we didn't change the script, but we embellished on the music. We did new takes to improve quality of the microphone, all sorts of technical stuff like that, and it just elevates it. So yeah,
Took out a bit of
don't be
swearing
too.
as well.
Cut out a couple of inappropriate words to go with our developed PG rating. But yeah, just be brave and be bold, and don't worry too much about anything, because you can always go in with a little touch up paintbrush or whatever you want to. What's a good bathroom metaphor to chuck in here? Grout again. Let's bring back the grout.
Grouting.
You can go and over
A little
grout.
flannel, maybe.
I was going to say
Yeah,
something
nice.
to do with makeup. You know, you can always do another face of makeup. You know,
Do another
that's
face.
lovely.
is that what they do with makeup? Do you do a face of makeup?
I don't know.
That's our third analogy right there.
You guys are actors. You'd know more about makeup than I would.
Yeah. Slap that bass on.
Right.
I think slapping the bass refers to music.
Yeah, I think
Harvey,
Marv
come on.
knows more about that than us.
I do.
Yeah,
I do.
Harvey.
Yeah.
He does. Yeah.
Yeah, I can slap at that bass. Yes. You know, the neighbours must be thinking to themselves, what is he on about?
You wait.
You should
till
try and record
you're
in the Chronicles of
under a
Wild Hollow.
blanket. Yeah. In your bedroom under a blanket with a small microphone, screaming like a deranged elf in the heart of winter in a COVID lockdown, and that's when you really wonder what the neighbours are thinking.
Called Butter, might I add.
An elf called Butter. Yeah.
There's our next Wild Hollow short, an elf called Butter.
Oh,
Oh, bring it back.
That sounds like a nice episode. Hey.
yeah.
Oh, well, you know,
You
Butter is
haven't
an
met
evil
Butter.
villain.
Oh dear.
I'm guessing it'll be salted, that butter.
Oh, stop it, Marv.
Okay.
No. no.
That's it. I'm going out the room.
Marv. No, Marv. I'm just trying to butter you up, Marv.
Oh, there it is. There at the back
How
with the puns
dare
now.
you?
This is how it starts.
No, come on.
You're milking it now.
Stop it. That was utterly dreadful.
Oh.
Oh, I'm sure Simon Cowell would say it's a move from me.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh,
So we missed
Bring
that
it
one.
back to the programme. There you go.
Yes.
Very professional.
So, what do you like to listen to? Or, in fact, I mean, because I find that what you record is the audio has an almost visual feel to it. You can actually picture it. So, what do you actually, all three of you, like to listen to? You know, in any way, podcast or any sort of radio shows or anything, or like to watch in your own time that you think is really inspirational.
in terms of podcasts, quite a big inspiration for me would be like the D&D podcast world, because like in D&D, like these people are playing these like crazy weird characters, often in like fantastical worlds. So like some of the stuff they come up with is like so imaginative and quite inspiring to when you're writing something like we're writing them. So I'd like to shout out Not Another D&D podcast and the Glass Cannon Network's Haunted City series, because they have such fantastic worlds and such fantastic people playing those games with fantastic imaginations. So those are my main sort of podcast audio drama listenings at the moment.
For me, it's I really enjoy sort of music production podcasts, things like Song Exploder and Tape Notes and stuff, where you have artists delving into detail into the recording process of their music, and you sort of hear the stem tracks in isolation and how they sort of go from having a genesis of an idea of a song all the way through to the finished article. And there's a few podcasts that do that really well, and sort of that really looking at the tiny little sonic changes they make of putting this amp, this synthesizer, and suddenly the story of the song became more clear. And so things like that is my main podcast listening is sort of music based stuff.
And yeah, it's odd that we've dived into making an audio drama, and yet our experience with listening to audio dramas was minimal to non-existent before we put out the show. I don't know about you two guys, but I didn't realize what breadth of content there actually was out there in the audio drama world. So since actually discovering that, I've listened to Wooden Overcoats, the whole lot, and it is utterly beautiful and incredible and hilarious. Just what an amazing show, and what an amazing showcase of what you can do with just audio. So yeah, that was one of my favorite discoveries since realizing that audio drama was actually podcast audio drama is a thing that people do. Yeah, amazing. And then I really love listening to like movie soundtracks and stuff as well. Not podcast world, but it massively influences our show for sure. And it is your Howard Shaw's, your James Newton Howard's,
Hans Zimmer,
John Williams, Hans Zimmer, all of these incredible soundtracks. I'd love just like immersing myself. Murray Gold, I grew up just listening to the soundtracks from Doctor Who. And the music is just so good. So yeah, all of that has massively sort of leaked into our show as well.
I find that as a writing tool actually as well, especially with the Grey trilogy, being so sort of piratey. You get on YouTube these videos, it's like 4 hours of ambient pirate background music that someone has taken the time to create and upload onto YouTube, and I just sit at the table with my laptop and my headphones on, listening to that on repeat, while bashing out drafts for these scenes, and I've found that so useful. But I think, as you said, Christian, growing up listening to soundtracks, I think the first CD I ever bought was the Lord of the Rings Two Towers soundtrack on CD that I used to put on when I was doing my literacy homework in like year 4. So I guess it goes way back. Yeah, so how can I fit the word fridge into a sentence, and then you got that playing, like, it's going to be epic, whatever it is.
Boromir opened the fridge.
Exactly. All right, that's one down. Let's get another one. There's 20 more to do before tomorrow morning.
Was Indiana Jones inside that fridge?
He could have been.
Very good. Marv, your references, I've already said it. Fantastic.
I try. I spend too much time watching films, listening to music, and...
That's not possible. No. You can't spend too much time doing that. It's the joys of life, really, isn't it?
So what advice would you give to anybody wanting to start a podcast?
I think concept is really important with podcasts. I think there are so many great podcasts, but there are also so many podcasts where the podcast doesn't really know what it is, and it's just people chatting. And it changes and it develops, and that's all right. It takes time to sort of nail down exactly what it is that you're doing as a podcast, what your structure is. But I do think a concept is really important when you're starting a podcast, because otherwise you might as well just be, going to the pub and putting a microphone on the table with your friends, which is great for the people talking, but less interesting for a listener, I think.
Yeah, I think if there is any chance of you filling a gap in, I can't remember what the exact number was, but I saw someone tweeting the other day of the amount of podcasts now available on Spotify, and I think it's like 150 million podcasts or something.
Wow.
And everybody knows someone who makes a bleeding podcast. Like, someone makes a podcast. So I'm not surprised that the number is that big. But yeah, filling a gap in some way, putting your own spin on something, I think is really important as well.
I think as well, I'm just going to push this. We've spoken about it so much already, but just collaborate, get other people's voices on there, find interesting viewpoints to spotlight, I guess.
And don't be afraid to ask people what their opinions are who aren't involved, whether they be good or bad opinions, because you can take them on board and make changes accordingly.
Definitely. Yeah. Feedback is always useful, whether you action that feedback or don't. Hearing it is so important. same with things like reviews and stuff. Like to hear what people think is so valuable. And it doesn't mean that you have to change what you're doing every time someone says something contrary to what you were doing before. But it is really valuable because it makes you think about your own work in a different way.
How many of you have seen the review that I left?
I think we posted it, didn't we? I think we put it on our social media.
You did?
Yeah. Oh, we loved it. It was
yeah.
giving those great references to the Muppets and the Goons and
Yeah.
stuff. We loved it.
Well, I've already said that. I've thought that it's very much like that. It's like it's like the Muppet sort of analogy of but in your own way. That's not the Muppets, but it's got that sort of feel with the drama and then the songs put in there and all of that. Yeah,
I think we really enjoyed pushing something to its dramatic limit, raising the stakes, and then throwing in something lighter. Whether it's a joke, a pun, or a song, as you said. Having that balance, I think, is really important. It also helps with the pace of storytelling because you don't linger in one moment too long. It keeps it rattling on, and we do love to cram our stories with a lot of action. So we kind of we need that as a tool to sort of get us from one thing to the next.
I think Muppets is a really good comparison, actually. In quite a lot of the songs that they throw in, obviously it is heightened and bizarre and random that it's little felt creatures, but they're not necessarily spouting joke after joke. They are singing genuine lyrics that are furthering the plot. I cannot wait for. I think Disney Plus are releasing like an extended version of Muppet Christmas Carol this Christmas.
I love that.
I'm ready for it. I'm ready. But yeah, like them breaking out into the song, and it is genuinely pushing the plot forward. And if it wasn't a bunch of felt puppets with people's hands up them, that would be taken far more seriously. And I love that is kind of where we take our show as well. If it wasn't animals, and if it wasn't essentially if it wasn't animals, it would put a whole entire different spin on it. So just placing it in this world that we've sort of cobbled together gives it this whole different angle.
Yeah, if it wasn't animals, then people might think, "Whoa, what's this? This is a bit weird." But because you've gone that level to it being animals, that's already taken you away from that sense of where we are in the real world, and it's taking you into that world of its own.
Yeah. Thank you for making that far better phrase than I did.
But what was I going to say with that? But I mean, the Muppets thing there, you were talking about, I'm going on a tangent here, but that makes me think of in A Muppet Christmas Carol, the when they've got the song going on in the street, and you've got the singing fruit and vegetables on the stalls.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love it. And no cheeses for us Mises.
Yes.
My favourite line of the whole film.
Shout out to Muppet Christmas Carol.
Shout out.
Shout out to Muppets.
So,
should we all watch Muppet Christmas Carol together at Christmas, guys?
That'll be nice.
Marv, you're invited.
Should we do it as a watch party online?
Shall
Let's
we?
do it.
We'll do a tweet along.
Yes, let's do it. I'm game for that. So here's the bit that Harvey has been waiting for, and probably all of you. So here we go for the plug-in time. Where to find you and where to get hold of you.
Come on, Harvey, let's go.
Go on, Harvey.
Well, I'll take it away. So, I mean, we're available on all podcast platforms, streaming platforms. So Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, any of those. And you can also find a link to stream all the episodes on our website, which is shoutingisfunny.com. And on there as well, you'll find transcripts for all the episodes that have been released so far, which is something that we've come to a bit late, but we're really pleased to have them available now. And also all the artwork that we've done for the characters, the map, the scenes, things like that. So just loads more to have a look at and explore on the website there. We've also got a Patreon page, which you can get to via our website. So for a very small amount of money each month, you can help us develop our next projects. We can bring you more Wild Hollow, and you'll get some great treats as members along the way, exclusive access to the recording of the work we do, as well as extra artwork and all sorts of goodies. And also, if you fancy taking a bit of Wild Hollow home with you, we've got some limited edition prints which are available on our website, or you can find us on Instagram and Twitter. Just type "shouting is funny."
Oh, and while we're here, Christian, so where is the music going to be made available, and how would they find it?
It's going to go across all major music streaming platforms, so Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon Music, YouTube Music, pretty much anywhere. Just search Shouting is Funny or The Chronicles of Wild Hollow. The soundtrack for the Borsan trilogy is already available. And yeah, as I said, the music for the Grey trilogy is releasing on Friday the 7th of October. So it should, as this episode...
That's
this week. So when this episode airs, it should be ready to go.
It should. Okay, and just in case you've forgotten, is there anybody you've forgotten to shout out that you've had working on the shows other than yourselves?
Oh, we've got... I mean, our cast, amazingly, is quite large. So hang on, bear with me, because I do want to... let's shout them all out, because they all deserve it. Dun, 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 dun. We'll put a little bit of, like, interval music in between here. I'll write it for you if you want, Marv. Go on, then.
Yeah,
That's nice.
score it out.
No,
Right, shout out.
We can't use that, Harvey. We can't use that.
Oh, no,
I
cut that,
think
cut that.
that's been
Harvey.
done. Shout out to Heather Gordy, Alice D. Mayer, Eleanor Kane, Loris Scarpa, Sorrel Jordan, Joshua Riley, Leah Lewis, Emma Levy, Bethan Bark, Paddy Duff, Tom Chudley Evans, Roddy Lynch. Take a breath as we jump to the previous trilogy.
He's not there yet.
Further shout out to Elliot McKenzie, Bethan Bark, Charlotte Swarbrick, Barney Fletcher, Aidan Day, Liam Bull, Eve de Leon Allen. And then we did a silly April Fools where we said Beyonce Knowles, Daniel Day-Lewis, Morgan Freeman, and Meryl Streep were involved, so they can get a shout out as well.
Yeah, to all of
I
them.
think there's one person we're missing to shout out, who's been vital in this whole process. Shout out to you, Marv.
Wow, to me?
Yeah, to you, Marv.
Yeah.
Shout out to you.
Why me? Why me?
But for arranging and hosting us in this wonderful show. Thank you very much.
Been a
Thank
lovely
you.
evening.
It has.
That's been, yeah.
I've enjoyed the drinks that Harvey brought with him.
I wish. Oh, I've been guzzling water. I've had a tickly throat. I was, worried I was going to have a coughing fit. So
I was just about to say that you mix a really good Southern Comfort and Coke.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, it's nice, that.
Yes.
Sweet.
Yes.
Sweet.
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 Anyway, thank you for talking with me today, guys.
Thanks very much, Marv. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
It's been
Thank
great.
you so much.
It's been grand.
Thank you very much. You can find Pods Like Us on any streaming platform, and just look for Pods Like Us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And you can contact me through podslikeus@gmail.com. Also, if you go to Patreon, for £1 a month, you get episodes without any of the trailers in, and you get extra quick episodes that are just basically me promoting other shows. So I will occasionally I'll say, oh, here are 10 shows that are about this sort of subject that you could check out. Well, actually, 5 shows. Don't give yourself too much work, Marv. But if you go to Patreon and look for Pods Like Us, you'll find that there as well. Just like I said, for £1 a month, it's nothing. Anyway, thank you everyone for listening, and hope you listen again to another episode of Pods Like Us.
Shout out Eleanor Kane.
Shout out Catford Muse.
full podcast of shout outs. That's what's going to happen here.
Shout out to Funny. There you
Yes.
go. Shout out to Alex. Yeah.
Thank you, Alex.
Shout out to Alex.
www.shoutingisfunny.com.
Shout out to Luther Vandross.
Shout out to Bob Dylan.
Yep.
Shout out to Bob Dylan.
All these shout outs.
I can't wait for the little sound bites at the end. Shout out to the soundtrack releasing on Friday the 7th of October. Shout out to limited edition art prints at shoutingisfunny.com.
That's true.
Oh, this has just become one big plug,
It
hasn't
has,
it?
yeah.
No, it's an in-depth conversation that I'm really enjoying, actually, Christian.
Okay.
But yeah.
And another fantastic analogy just dropped in there.
Back
We're
to
sticking to the
bathroom analogy.
bathroom-related metaphors.
Grant Olding, who's a composer.
Shout out.
Shout out to Grant Olding.
Shout out for Aragon.
Yeah, sorry. Shout out to J.R.R. Tolkien quickly.
Shout out to Heather Gordy,
Shout out to her.
our wonderful Artemis Gray.
Yep.
We got her in the booth. Alice E. Mayer, Salami, we got her in. And Eleanor Kane, who plays Freya Gray, Artemis's mother.
David Tennant's on at the moment, isn't he? In the West End?
He is.
It'd
Oh,
be
that's a
handy.
good shout.
That's
Yeah, we'll
David
go and nab
Shout
him.
out to David Tennant.
Grab him.
Shout
Yep,
out to David
we're coming
Tennant.
for you.
Shout out to Loris Scarpa. He plays
Oh, lovely. Yeah.
he plays Pablo the Seagull in the Grey trilogy.
And Jeffrey the
And-
Beaver.
And Jeffrey, let's not forget, but
Right there.
Shout out to Patrick Stewart.
Shout out again to Patrick Stewart.
there we are.
Shout out to Muppet Christmas Carol.
Shout out.
Shout out to Muppets.
So,
Should we all watch Muppet Christmas Carol together at Christmas, guys?
That'll be
Ooh.
nice.
Marv, you're invited. Shout out to Heather Gordy, Alice E. Mayer, Eleanor Kane, Loris Scarpa, Sorrel Jordan, Joshua Riley, Leah Lewis, Emma Levy, Bethan Bark, Paddy Duff, Tom Chudley Evans, Roddy Lynch. Take a breath as we jump to the previous trilogy. Further shout out to Elliot Mackenzie, Bethan Bark, Charlotte Swarbrick, Barney Fletcher, Aidan Day, Liam Bull, Eve de Leon Allen, and then we did a silly April Fools where we said Beyonce Knowles, Daniel Day-Lewis, Morgan Freeman, and Meryl Streep were involved, so they can get a shout out as well.
Shout out to you, Marv.
wow, to me?
Yeah, to you, Marv.
Yeah.
Shout out to
But
you.
why me? Why me?
But for arranging and hosting us in this wonderful show. Thank you very much.
Been a
Thank
lovely
you.
evening.
It has.
Well, it's been, yeah.
I've enjoyed the drinks that Harvey bought with him.